That's right. We are back and we are live. It is Fight IQ. I almost forgot the name of the show. It's been so long. Presented by RotoWire. I am your host of Daily Fantasy Sniper. We're here to talk UFC 249, the return of not just MMA, but professional sports here in the United States. Cannot wait. With me, as always, the co-host, the analyst, the important guys on the show, Chris Olsen. You can find him on Twitter at Real Chris Olsen. Joe, better known in the DFS circle as Sun Tzu. Guys, how we doing? Are you pumped?
I'm pumped, man. Well, it's interesting. I was just listening to myself on Sirius XM 210. I got myself and Brett Apley. We got a 45-minute spot on Sirius FM, and the moderator was referring to me as Joe Sun Tzu. So I'm wondering if people thought like maybe my last name was Sun Tzu. Hopefully not, because people generally don't use their last names on the air. But so I keep hearing Joe Sun Tzu, Joe Sun Tzu.
That's odd. I mean, do people not know who Sun Tzu is? Like,
maybe the moderator didn't. But
Art of War, which is what we are going to have on Saturday. Chris, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I'm ready for the card. I think the first thing we need to talk about right off the bat is just like how weird this is for everybody involved. I mean, you keep hearing stories of fighters, Uriah Hall living in the gym, Jacare Sousa using his wife's CrossFit equipment. And then you got Greg Hardy saying how scared he is. You got all the weight cut stuff. Speaking of Jeremy
all these
Stevens,
awful videos of people getting nose swabbed.
Yeah. Oh my God. Tickling the nose, tickling the brain. I'm here for all of it. So it's gonna be wild, and I'm ready. Let's go.
So before we dig into the card, we are going to get to that quick. Not a whole lot of foreplay for you guys this week, but there's tons of huge contests. FanDuel is up and going. Not the first time they've had it, but make sure you check out the scoring system for that. We're going to stick to DraftKings on the show, but slightly different scoring system there. Super Draft also has MMA. So MMA exploding because, hey, there's not sports and these sites got to make money. So they're scoring there. For the most part, the quick breakdown is FanDuel. You're looking for finishes even more so than on DraftKings. That's the quick, the quick breakdown on it. We're going to stick for pricing on the show to DraftKings, do a normal breakdown. Before we get into it, one last thing I got to do, make sure you go to rotowire.com/free, usually a 10-day free trial to all their premium content, no credit card required. I'm pretty sure all that stuff is still up and going as per usual. Make sure you subscribe to the show, RotoWire MMA on iTunes, click the like button, subscribe on YouTube to the RotoWire channel. That's enough of the intro. I'm sick of that. Let's get to some fights. First up, Superman Span 9,300 taking on Smiling Sam Alvey at 6,900. First fight of the night has our biggest favorite on the card. Span is minus 420. Alvey is plus 375. Personally, no idea how in the world Ryan Span is a minus 400 favorite against anyone, but that's just where Sam Alvey is at this point in his career. Interesting fight. Joe, kick us off here. I'm starting with you on purpose because this means you do the women's fight later. So there's method to this.
Yeah, I know. I get it. I mean, unfortunately, I fear that we're going to start the night off with a stinker, which is a shame because it's such a good card all in. I can't see myself laying the kind of wood or the juice on Spawn. I don't know why people are so confident in him. I get that he's likely to win the fight. I could certainly see it being an uninspiring decision, is I believe the phrase I used in the past. Alvey's got pretty good takedown defense. He doesn't have a questionable referee. I'm saying that tongue in cheek, of course. And look, Spawn is a guy that got finished on looking on Dana White's Contender Series, and fought in the regional scene and kind of worked his way back into the UFC. But Sam Alvey is kind of a wily veteran. I mean, I don't expect him to necessarily win, but I'm not as certain in the finish as some people. And his price point is so high that I see a lot of value around him. So I fully expect to be underexposed to the fight as a whole, and especially to Spawn.
I think Span wins as well, but Alvey's in these weird fights, and it's going to be knockout or bust for him as per usual. Chris, is he going to get it?
I think he gets it, but I still am still hard pressed to say, pay up for him because even if he gets it, which I think he will, it might come in the second or third round after a round or two of nonsense. I mean, you look at that Devin Clark fight, and it was basically a round of Span looking like a fish out of water until he decided, oh, I can just grab him and muscle him around, and then he got the sub. Alvey does have very good takedown defense, so it's going to be interesting to see how that plays. For all the things, like I like Span a lot. I don't understand why he's so reliant on grappling. I think he's a pretty good boxer. I think his hands are pretty fast. He's obviously very athletic and powerful. I think if he wants to, he can end this fight with his hands. And that's what I think is going to happen. But as I said, I can't really see paying up because I don't really know what's going to happen. I think you can look at Span as sort of, as I like to, as sort of a contrarian pay up play. But I think at 9,300, that's about all he's going to be. But I am taking Span, and I do think eventually it happens by knockout.
Moving on. I think the most interesting fights on the card. I'm really looking forward to it. It's a stacked card. And I think a bit of a sleeper for DFS as well. Bryce Mitchell, 8,500, taking on Charles Rosa at 7,700. Mitchell minus 160. The line is actually widening. Rosa plus 150. Surprising to me because I'm on the dog here. I like Charles Rosa. Think it's a big step up for Bryce Mitchell. People seem to forget that not that long ago, Charles Rosa, went to a split decision with Yair Rodriguez. Had a really good fight against Shane Burgos. Bryce Mitchell, fun prospect. Everybody loves him. Guy who, screwed his own nuts. If you don't know that story, go look that up. Like, he's got the hype around him, but Rosa's a big test here. I'm surprised Mitchell, the line is as wide as it is. Chris, what are your thoughts here?
So, as the resident dog player, let me be the first to say that I'm all aboard the Bryce Mitchell hype train here. I think.
Wait. Mitchell's the favorite. Mitchell's the big favorite.
I know he is, but I'm saying I'm like, switching it up.
You're not playing dogs at all this week. Then this is bananas.
I have them in the middle. Don't worry, they're coming. But I just think that Charles Rosa is. Look, a lot of people are going to make a lot of the Manny Bermudez sub, but I feel like that was way more Bermudez being lackluster and complacent than anything else. I mean, he was literally sitting in his guard. I guess he got comfortable landing shots to the face because he was doing that. But then he was also just sitting there with his arm controlled, postured up in Rosa's guard. And Rosa is a black belt. You can't do that. I don't think Mitchell's going to be that careless or sloppy.
He's a brown belt.
Brown belt. Rosa's a brown belt or black belt?
Mitchell's a brown belt against the black belt and Rosa.
Right. Yeah. I think Bryce Mitchell is a guy because we think of him as a jiu-jitsu player, and of course he's got great scrambles. He's creative. He hit a twister in his last fight, yada, yada, yada. But I also think that he's sort of an underrated kickboxer. I like his kickboxing quite a bit. I think he throws a combination, and I think one of the most overlooked portions of his game is he's actually pretty good defensively. He's actually pretty defensively responsible on the feet. So, and Charles Rosa basically likes to wing big shots. So I think Bryce Mitchell is going to have a pretty big advantage in the stand-up. And I think, look, going to the ground, it's going to be interesting, but I think Mitchell at least has enough to hold his own there. The scrambles are going to be interesting. I think Mitchell is going to be able to out-hustle him there, even if he's not specifically the better pure jiu-jitsu player. So, yeah, I like a lot of things about Mitchell in this fight. Could he get caught by Charles Rosa? Sure he could. We're just talking on YouTube. Our buddy Mike Yunnan, who has a plus 700 prop with the Rosa submission. Look, it's not crazy. I mean, Rosa's the black belt here. He's good off his back, but I just see too many advantages for Mitchell. I'm taking him. Probably a decision, but I would say a high scoring one. So I consider him a cash play. So I'm taking Mitchell.
Joe.
Yeah, so I think this is probably a decent fight to target. I think Rosa offers pretty good line value, especially on DraftKings. He is much cheaper on DraftKings than he is on FanDuel. So if anybody is playing contests in both and is looking to do a little bit of an ARB, he's much cheaper on on DraftKings. He works slightly better in my lineup constructions. Look, I'm going to have shares of both guys, but based on what my good friend, the DF Sniper, is going to say, he kind of pushed me over the edge on a fight where I was sort of in the middle. So I'm going to take Charles Rosa and the slight upset here. I think he's got a pretty solid floor. I think, either fighter is a pretty good cash game play. I just think the dog has a legitimate upside to win, or a legitimate chance to win. So give me Charles Rosa here. And I think this is a reasonably good fight to target in mass entry.
And what Joe was alluding to is what I mentioned earlier, just it being a big step up for Mitchell, and everyone kind of forgetting the caliber of competition Rosa has been in there with. Not to mention, by the way, Mitchell not at a real camp yet. I mean, he's the guy who's every time you put a mic in front of my face, I'm going to say Arkansas, 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 Arkansas. That's all well and good. I appreciate it. Hometown pride. I get it. To be a high-level MMA player, you need a big gym. Sorry, it's just a fact. Maybe you can keep going from here. Maybe he wins this, but at some point he doesn't move. He can't get to where he wants to go until he moves. Sorry, bud. My opinion. Moving on, probably the most exciting fight of the card outside of the main event, just in terms of pure craziness we're about to witness. Vicente Luque, 9,000, taking on Nico Price at 7,200. Luque minus 260, Price plus 240. These guys have fought once before. Luque pulled out a second round sub. Price is kill or be killed. Great for DFS GPP. Joe, who you got?
Yeah. I don't see any reason why this fight is going to end all that much differently than the last fight. One bit of concern here is that Luque has taken some damage, in his past few fights. I mean, he is hittable. He absorbs a fair amount of strikes. Look, he gives as good as he gets. He's a tough guy. Wonder Boy lit him up. I mean, that's a perfect game plan. Fortunately for Luque, Nico Price is not Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. He is going to get in Luque's face. Now, what Luque should do is he beat Price last time by submission. If Luque is smart, he should take a fight off from slugging and just take him to the ground as quickly as he can and work his superior ground game and get the submission. I don't see any reason to think why that can happen again. Obviously, Price has got a puncher's chance, which is why in mass entry GPPs, you should have a few shares of Price. I have Luque as one of my big three in terms of, guys I like that I want to focus on. So I think, you should have exposure to this fight. Price has got a puncher's chance. I just don't see any reason why the same result shouldn't be repeated in this rematch.
Chris.
Yeah, I have to agree. I think that, look, obviously Luque is dangerous. We know it. He's weirdly dangerous. But the thing is, Luque just beat him so completely in that fight. I don't really see another way either. I mean, the pressure and the leg kicks and all Luque could think to do was try to back him up with a jab, which didn't work. He just got countered off it consistently. And unless he comes in here with a strategy change, which he could, I don't see the fight going any differently. I think, Luque pressures everybody he fights, and as Joe said, certainly Nico Price is not the range keeper that somebody like Stephen Thompson is. I expect that Luque is going to hit him hard before finishing him the way he wants. I expect him to be a big point scorer here. If you're playing a bunch of lineups, take Nico for the kill or be kill attitude, but there's just way too many things to like about Luque to go in any other direction here as far as a pick.
Moving on, next fight up, Jacare Sousa at 8,300, taking on Uriah Hall at 7,900. This line's actually moved the opposite way I thought it was going to. Jacare at minus 120, that's closed up. Hall is at plus 110. I'm on the Hall side. It's not a confident pick, but I'm taking Uriah Hall here just because, look, Jacare's old. These guys fall apart. I was arguing with somebody like Jacare's never been knocked out. That's nice. Damian Maia hadn't been knocked out until 2 months ago when Gilbert Burns demolished him. Now, Uriah Hall hits just that hard. Don't make any beans about it. Obviously, he's not the same grappler, different level of talent, but Uriah Hall's a dangerous guy here. I thought the public would be more on Jacare. The line is closing, but I like Hall here. Close fight. Interesting one for DFS because Jacare, who's up for this one? Chris, Jacare has not landed a takedown in his last 3 fights. And that's what he needs to do here. He needs takedown. So how's this one happen, Chris?
Yeah, I'm a little bit more bullish on Hall here than you are. For a lot of the reason you mentioned. I mean, not only has he not landed a takedown in the fight, the 2 fights that he has landed a takedown in, he's lost both of those fights. So he hasn't won a fight he's landed a takedown in, I think, in the last 6 fights. And that was the Tim Bosch fight where he just took him down and got a Kimura win. I mean, it's true that Jacare has never had his lights turned out, but he was beaten up very badly and had it waved off in the Robert Whittaker fight. He got dropped in the first round of the Jack Hermanson fight. So I think that the speed of Hall here is going to pay a lot of dividends, and also that hammer jab of Uriah Hall that we've seen him use a lot more lately. He was using it in the Boachinia fight very effectively. He used it against Carlos Jr. very effectively, and that's the other thing. Like, I'm not much of a narrative-driven guy. That's Joe's lot most of the time. But I have to say, you can't help but be impressed by the, I think, turn that Uriah Hall has made in his career at this point. We all remember that rematch against Gegard Mousasi, where he basically, quit after he was taken down and just allowed himself to be pounded out. Since then, I mean, getting beaten up by Krzysztof Jotko and taken to the ground, gets out, comes back, wins the fight. Getting beaten up by Bevon Lewis, comes back, wins the fight. Has his back taken and gets taken down in, I think, every round by Antonio Carlos Jr., comes back, wins the fight. So I think this is a guy who is motivated now, and I think a motivated Uriah Hall is scary. I wouldn't place all my eggs in that basket if I didn't think he had the technical advantages as well. I do. So both of those things put together, and I'm pretty confident in Uriah Hall. So I'm taking him for, I'm going to say, a second round stoppage here.
Joe.
Yeah, so, there's definitely some narrative around this fight, right? Apparently, you mentioned Uriah Hall, pretty much living or sleeping at ATT. Jacare training in his, with his wife's elliptical equipment. His only training partner was Alan Patrick, who is obviously a much lighter fighter. He's 40 years old. He hasn't been using his takedowns and his submission game like he should. Hall, on the other hand, is a guy that seems to be very good at snatching victory from the jaws of defeat, winning 3 of his last 4 fights. I don't really know what to do here. I could see this being a pretty boring and pedestrian fight. I'm still going to lean towards Jacare, but not by much. And I don't expect to have a lot of this fight, which could potentially be a mistake, but you have to draw a line somewhere in the sand. I know there are some people that are really, really high on Jacare's chances here. I just don't see how anybody can be overly confident in either guy here. So I will give a very tentative, uninspired vote to Jacare.
Moving on. Women's fight up next, so it's Joe's time to shine. Carla Esparza, 8,400, taking on the Karate Hottie, Michelle Waterson at 7,800. Esparza minus 140, Waterson plus 130. I mean, the last women's fight we saw, a stack won a GPP. Probably not going to happen here, not just because it's 3 rounds instead of 5, because of the 2 fighters. For me, Esparza wants takedowns. The range of Michelle Waterson, I think it's going to be a little much, but it's super close. Like, I'm leaning towards the dog here as well, but same as Hall, like really tentative. What does worry me narrative-wise before Joe goes is Waterson, no training partner, who's training with her husband, who is, I think, an amateur, I want to say boxer, but I could be totally off base here. So Michelle Waterson, but should be a bad fight for DFS. Joe.
Yeah, so I like Esparza a fair bit here. I think she's actually made some improvements with her striking, which is where perceivably you would give Waterson an edge. Esparza is a pretty good chain wrestler. She's not big in as a submission grappler, but she's a pretty good chain wrestler. She should have that advantage. Waterson's takedowns are Somewhat limited to those judo throws, which again, anybody will tell you should not work in MMA against anybody who is a decent wrestler, of which Esparza is a decent wrestler. So I actually have a bet on Esparza. The line has moved a bit. But I love Michelle Waterson, and I did it with Mother's Day coming up. I did a very tasteful tribute, in air quotes, to MMA female fighters who are also moms. That was on. I did that for MMA Fan Radio. And look, what's not to like about Michelle Waterson? The original fight mom here. I just think Carla Esparza is going to be too much. If you're doing tape study, watch her fight against Claudia Gadelha. She looked really good striking, and Gadelha really was fortunate to come out of that fight with a victory. I had Gadelha, but I personally scored the fight for Esparza. The only people that she's had trouble with recently is, Tatiana Suarez. I think she probably beat Grasso. Just some unfortunate decisions. So I like Esparza here to bet. I don't think this is necessarily a great fight for DraftKings. She's priced just a tad too high. There could definitely be some grappling points, and she probably has a reasonably solid floor. But give me Esparza here. It's just I don't love the fight for DraftKings.
It is worth noting you said a couple questionable decisions. True. It's also that Randa Marcos decision where you could argue she won that one too. So women's MMA and judging especially, not so much women, I should say. We're in Florida this week, which, oh man, buckle up, guys. Every time it hits the scorecards, be afraid. Be very afraid. For this fight, Chris.
Yeah, well, I would say, yeah, she did beat Grasso, but Grasso hurt her really bad in the last round, and she was pretty lucky to hang on there. So I think we should note that. What I would say about this fight is, I just put up that line that Vince in the chat said that Esparza lays in praise, because I think that actually flows pretty well into my argument for Waterson here. I think she is going to get taken down by Esparza. My question there is what's going to happen after that. And I think that Esparza basically has two modes on the ground. She either lays in praise or she tries to pass, gets manic, and creates scrambles. I think in either case, that's going to work out good for Waterson, who's really tricky off her back, really lightning quick with the transitions. I mentioned on Twitter the back take against Joanna Jędrzejczyk, which almost in an instant took her from a fight she was losing to a fight that she won. She was about 2 inches from getting underneath the chin and taking that fight. But aside from that, I think she's got some of the quickest kicks in the UFC. I think she's been really – it's interesting, Shaun, that you say that she's working or maybe working with her boyfriend who's an amateur boxer, because I feel like she has been trying to sit down on her punches a little bit more lately. And that might be a problem because, as I agree with Joe, that Gadelha has improved a little bit with her striking. She's also still very upright, and it leads to her getting cracked pretty often. Not just the Grasso fight, but other fights as well. I think that Waterson has some real advantages here. If she happens to get stuck on the ground in a 3-round decision, then that's unfortunate, and Esparza is going to win, and I can see the fight going that way. But I think that she has enough jiu-jitsu to at least keep things live on the mat, keep it on the feet if she wants, and take this. So I'm going Waterson here.
Moving out. Fabricio Werdum, 9,200, taking on Alexei Olynyk at 7,000, fitting that Chris starts this fight, which Alexei Olynyk, if you're not a fan of the show, he's going to give me a stroke one day. He just is. He's not good. Period. Sorry, Chris. End of story. And regardless, he's outclassed here. Werdum is minus 310. Olynyk is plus 280. All we're going to debate is Fabricio Werdum's shot. Like, that's what we're talking about, and coming off of a 2-year layoff. That's what we're talking about. Olynyk did look in good shape today at weigh-ins. But Olynyk wants to get submissions. He's not submitting Fabricio Werdum. He's just not. Like, it's one of the best heavyweight grapplers ever. Like, I know, and I hesitate because of guys like Frank Mir, but Werdum is legit. So no, I would be mortified if he hits an Ezekiel choke here. Like, just I want to say I'd shave my head, but there's not much there to do, so I'm not going to do that. But I can't see that happening. So heavyweight fight here. I think Werdum, I'm all about it. I think he's definitely good enough. I don't think he's totally shot. I think he should be motivated because it only takes a couple wins to be in title contention at heavyweight. So give me Werdum, not going with the old man wonder here in Olynyk. I'm assuming Chris is because he is president of the Alexei Olynyk fan club.
Well, as president, I had a good cry before I made my pick in this fight because, as a matter of fact, I am not picking Olynyk. I am picking Fabricio Werdum. Look, I mean, you pretty much hit it. I mean, the guy he's probably the best heavyweight grappler except for Fabricio Werdum, and now Werdum is back. So I was looking for windows here. Even in fights he lost, even in that Volkov fight, Verdum's top game is just so smothering. Olynyk's not going to have anything to do here. He's going to get trapped. The one shot he has is getting in Verdum's face and throwing those meat hooks, which he does very often and very hard. He dropped Travis Brown with shots. He finished Jared Rosholt with shots. And as you said, Shaun, Werdum could be weary here. He's coming off, is it 2 or 3 years since his USADA suspension?
I think it was a 2-year suspension. It might be 3 since he fought. Something.
Okay.
I'll look it up while you're going here.
All right. So it's 2 or 3 years plus all of this uncertainty and nonsense. Nalandal referencing his jiu-jitsu match against Gordon Ryan. That was not pleasant for me. Olynyk, that is. But yeah, I think that unless Olynyk wings him out on the feet, I don't really see this happening. I'll be interested to see what happens if Olynyk gets on top. That I will be interested to see. I don't know if
2 years, 2 months. Sorry.
2 years, 2 months. No problem. So I'll be interested to see what happens if Olynyk can get on top. I don't know if he can sub him from there. I wonder if he can hold position. But it will be interesting to see. But nonetheless, I have to go with Werdum here. Now, the thing about Werdum is that we kind of get 2 different Werdums depending on what he feels like doing. You can either get like Walt Harris, Alexander Volkov Werdum, where he just goes for the takedowns right away, or you can get kickboxer Werdum like we saw against Alistair Overeem and Marcin Tybura. So if he lets Olynyk hang around here, that could make him, not worth the 9,200. But then again, like, how long does Alexei Olynyk last in fights? Like, he went a round and a half against Maurice Green, and I was shocked that even that happened.
Thought he was going to die.
Yeah.
So
he pulled out the win. Just at
the end of 7.5 minutes, he looks like he is hurting. Travis Brown fight too. That was ugly.
That was. And then when he gets on the mic after that, he can barely talk because poor guy, he can barely talk. He's trying to speak English and he's just not working out for him. But yeah, so I'm going for Doom here. Look, I think Alexei Olynyk on both FanDuel and DraftKings is the second least expensive fighter in both formats. Can he land a big shot here and come what may? That can happen. So I wouldn't fade off him completely based on his price, but unfortunately, it is with a heavy heart that, I have to pick Fabricio Werdum here, probably by stoppage.
Joe.
Okay, so I have 2 quick shout-outs before I give you my obvious pick in this fight. Firstly, I want to thank all the regulars in chat, and if I leave your name out here, I apologize, but I'm talking about Elliot, Vince, Nan, John Church, of course, the super fan, Mike Mad, Lee Tyler, these guys are great. Tajik Bey, they tune in. David, they tune into all our fights, all our videos. So I want to give a shout out to them and a special shout out. We have some guys in our MMA community that are first responders. And 2 I want to give a shout out to. One is Mike from Mike's MMA. Him and his wife are medical professionals and they're first responders. And then, he doesn't make any secret of it, so I hope it's okay, Mike. But Mike Mad, who is in chat right now, is a police officer in New Jersey. So, Mike, be safe. I hope you're getting through this okay. So just a shout out to all those guys. And my pick is Fabricio Werdum for everything that Chris said.
All right.
Moving on. Yeah, let's save a little bit of time there. We've got some good fights to talk about. Anthony Pettis, 8,200. Donald Cowboy Cerrone, 8,000. Line on this fight. Pettis minus 137. Come back on Cowboy plus 127. They fought once before. It was Pettis early. The general consensus is Pettis early, Cowboy late. I think Cowboy's got a slight edge everywhere. I'm just worried about his head. And it's really as simple as that. We've heard him, saw the McGregor fiasco. He's driving cross country for this one. Like a lot of question marks there that just typically make me worry about Cowboy Cerrone. I will lean with him for this fight. Joe, how about you?
Oh, shit. And how did I forget MMA Mako, who just retweeted our link out to this show?
You suck.
Yes.
I couldn't. And by the way, this guy does incredible fight breakdowns with music, and it's just really great. And I will give you guys a little bit of a hint that we are working on something very special for an upcoming fight card, which is going to result in a wager. Who do I like in this fight? Cerrone makes me nervous. I was kind of on the fence. Both fighters have their pros and cons in terms of narrative. Cerrone is coming off of, several, vicious knockouts. The 13 seconds he was in there with McGregor. And apparently, the narrative is that he didn't want to be there at all, which kind of is disturbing. He's pretty close to being, we're done or retired. Pettis, on the other hand, is a guy that is typically competitive in fights till he isn't. It seems like his body is constantly breaking down. No one was more surprised than me that he was able to drop and finish. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. I mean, I call that a flash knockout. I would have to believe that 9 fights out of 10, he doesn't get that. But give it to him. So I didn't really know what to do with this fight. So I am, and I will be the first to admit this, being influenced by others here who feel very strongly that this is Cowboys' fight to lose. So I will have shares of both fighters, but I'm going to give my lean to Donald Cowboy Cerrone, and I'd like him to go out of the UFC on a winning streak, and maybe this is the first of say 2 or 3 more fights that he has where he wins and then kind of goes off into the sunset.
Chris?
I think he'll have 2 or 3 more fights by the end of the summer, based on how he does it. But I have an opposite pick, but I will agree with you on one thing, Joe. This is a tough fight to call just because of what you mentioned. These guys are just so unreliable. Both of their bodies are not only breaking down, but it's both times where we see that on any given day they can or cannot give us the best they have to offer. Like in one fight they'll look really sharp, they'll be on their game, and the next it'll just be like, I wasn't really feeling this one. So it's tough from that perspective. We should mention, I guess, although I'm not sure if it even matters at this point, that this is a rematch from 2013. Although both guys have gone through such a degeneration, I guess would be the word, of their bodies, that at this point we're not even close to getting the products we would have then. But what I will say about the fight in general is, and I think you alluded to it as well, Joe, is that Pettis seems to hurt his opponent in almost every fight, even if he loses it. That goes for Tony Ferguson. That goes for Nate Diaz. That goes for even the last fight against Fahea, where he landed some good shots. He's a good counterpuncher. He's a good stiff counterpuncher. Cowboy likes to come in with these long combinations, but I mean, these aren't the crazy head movement combination that we saw him hit against Rick Story anymore. These are like, long boxing combinations with his head up in the air. And I think that's going to play right into the game of somebody like Anthony Pettis, who will let you back him up so he can throw those shots. And I think Cowboy's going to get clipped here. I think he's going to get finished. So the longer this fight goes, I do agree, the more it switches to Cowboy, who with everything else seems to have not lost his cardio or his willingness to win late in the fight. But I still have to give this to Anthony Pettis, and I'm going to say second round finish.
Moving on, Greg Hardy, 8,600. Yorgan De Castro, 7,600. A line on this fight. Hardy is the favorite. He is minus. First time I've lost minus 190. Comeback is plus 175. We're living in some alternate universe where I'm the only one picking Greg Hardy to win. But that's where I stand. De Castro's biggest win is over Justin Tafa. I like what I saw from Hardy going overseas against Volkov on short notice. Better athlete, clearly. I think he's going to use his physicality a bit here. I like Greg Hardy, and I've seen De Castro getting a little popular, which is strange. So, Chris, pick your dog here. But by the way, you're not being contrarian with this. This isn't a cool underdog to take. Everybody's on these dogs.
No, I know.
Okay.
Which almost makes me want to take Hardy because
exactly. Come to me.
I do. But I can't do it. Look, here's why. I went into this a little bit on Twitter earlier in the week or last week. I don't know. It's all run together to me at this point. But what I see from Hardy is, look, he's definitely more patient now. There's no doubt about it. But to me, that's come at a detriment for him to where he's not active enough to really put his opponents away. We saw this in the Ben Sassoli fight where Ben Sassoli was lunging at him with shots. And, I mean, he's evasive. He's a big athletic guy. He's good at evading. But he was never looking for the counter. And then I thought a lot about his win over Austin Lane in the Contender Series where he slid back and hit him with a nice cross to hurt him and then finish him. And I was like, wait, so where's that guy now? It seems to me that he is trading technique for cardio. I think he knows his cardio is bad. I think, look, we know about the Ben Sassoli fight, the inhaler. He was tired in that fight midway through the second round, and he had to stick it out. And who knows what happens if he can open up his airways in the third round? Does he even make it through? So we have to weigh these things. And I think that Yorgan De Castro, the little that we've seen of him, I really like his composure in the cage. And with that, I mean, like, if he doesn't like what's going on in the cage, he'll clinch. He's able to throw a big counter like we saw against Justin Tafa. I think he's really good at slowing the fight down and being able to pick up where his advantage is. He can wrestle a little bit. And as I said against when Justin Tafa was fighting Juan Adams, I don't know what Hardy has really done to earn a decent favorite spot here. I mean, if you take away the Sassoli win, which by all rights should have been a disqualification, I think. So then what's his best win? Is it Juan Adams or is it Dmitry Smolyakov? I mean, which guy is better? Smolyakov probably has the better record. So
that's not close. I mean, Juan Adams. Let's.
Well, okay, but I mean, Juan Adams.
I want to get into this. We're already pushing time.
All right, fair enough. But look, I think De Castro is a pretty athletic big guy in his own right. Not as much as Hardy, but I do think he can move in there. I like a lot of what I see from De Castro. I'm going to take him for a stoppage here.
Joe.
Yeah, so I'm on De Castro as well. I mean, I think I like obviously his price point. I think he can get inside on Hardy. He does have good leg kicks, which can weaken Hardy. I also like him based on some narrative that I have on the fight. I honestly believe that Greg Hardy needs a full camp or needs a complete camp, I should say, in order to fight. He's athletic, we all know. But for him to improve or to consistently improve as a fighter, he needs day in and day out training, right? He does not have the background in MMA that De Castro has. Athletic, yes. Reach advantage, yes. Height advantage, yes. Like all of that. But I don't see him, and unless someone knows differently and can tell me differently, I don't believe that he had a full camp for this fight and did not have a complete camp. So for that reason, and for a strategy, there is a strategy that'll beat Greg Hardy here. That's leg kicks until he can get inside and then perhaps drop him or at least hurt him. I'm going to pick De Castro. I love his price point at DraftKings. Let's be straight. This is a GPP play, right? I would not be comfortable with either side of this fight in cash. But for GPPs, I'll take a shot with De Castro.
Moving on, Calvin Kattar, 8,900, taking on Jeremy Stephens at 7,300. Jeremy Stephens missed weight today by 4.5 pounds, giving up 30% of his purse. Kattar minus 250, comeback on Stephens plus 230. Should be a striking match here. I think Kattar is that good of a striker. I think it's a bad matchup for Stephens. Give me Kattar to win a decision because Stephens is crazy tough. Joe, who do you got?
Yeah, I've got Calvin Kattar here. I mean, he's far more technical than Jeremy Stephens. I also believe that if his fight against Sharapov was 5 rounds, he would have won that fight. I like his technical boxing. The Boston finisher is not truly a finisher. I'm talking about the nickname of Calvin Kattar. I do like him here against Jeremy Stephens. Missing weight, when you're a featherweight and you miss by 4.5 pounds, it means you didn't try. So again, I would rather have someone miss weight by a lot anyway. And he likely just said, you know what, it's not working. I'm not going to make weight.
Didn't look great, by the way. I don't know if you watched. He didn't look great.
No, yeah, he didn't. But I mean, generally, you wouldn't expect that someone who missed by that much would have really struggled at all.
He didn't look good, though.
Okay, he didn't look good. I like Kattar more then, if that's the case. I have not watched the weights. But I like Kattar. I just don't know how DraftKings viable he is. If he doesn't get the finish, he's priced at a range where there are better plays around him. So I just don't know. I mean, based on what you guys just told me, I might need to take a few shots with him simply because if Stephens was not looking good and Kattar was on point and made weight and is a far more technical striker, and we've all seen that Stephens can be hurt to the body. I wouldn't put it past Kattar to work in that same area. He is far more technical. So give me Calvin Kattar here with a pause on whether this fight as a whole is even DraftKings viable.
Chris?
Well, I think it's DraftKings viable. And the point about the narrative that he's not really a finisher is taken, but I mean, he kind of is here, right? He finished Shane Burgos, and then he just finished Ricardo Lamas, right? Both in pretty devastating fashion there. I like Kattar a lot here. The reason is we've seen Stephens struggle a lot with fighters that he can't corral against the cage. Stephens' footwork is still not the best. He struggled with Moicano. He struggled with Yair Rodriguez until he realized he could just take him down. He struggled with Sharapov, obviously. I think there's going to be a lot of that here, especially against a guy like Kattar, who's got a really nice jab and knows how to keep his distance. Jeremy Stephens is a play because he's going to throw those big hooks that cover a lot of distance, and they surprise fighters. Like, I would never expect Stephens to have beaten a guy like Josh Emmett. Caught him with one of those hooks, and that was the fight. I think if they would run that back, a guy like Emmett probably beats Jeremy Stephens, but all it takes is that shot. He covers a lot of distance with it, and it's really powerful. So is Stephens live to a knockout? Yes. I think that what's going to happen is that Calvin Kattar is going to give him something of a boxing lesson, to quote Oscar De La Hoya, until he softens him up and eventually gets a finish. So I'm going to go with a high-volume third-round stoppage.
Kattar just doesn't throw that much volume, but we'll see what happens, I guess.
Yeah, but he's gonna be pressured here, so the fight's gonna be brought to him. So I think that's gonna bring it out.
We'll see. Francis Ngannou 9,100, Jairzinho Rosenstrike 7,100. Ngannou minus 255, Rosenstrike plus 235. Two big men. Both hit incredibly hard. Rosenstrike, people like to forget, he was in trouble his last fight against Overeem until in the last 5 seconds he exploded, Overeem's lip.
Yeah.
Like, it was disgusting. Like, probably should have lost that fight. Ngannou, we know the book on Ngannou, massive power, 3 straight knockouts now. He had that stinker against Derek Lewis right after his title fight where he was gun shy. Like, I think Ngannou's going to get it done here. It should be a quick knockout, 2 guys throwing. But what if they're both aware of the other one's power? Maybe it plays out a little slower pace. Either way, though, give me Francis Ngannou, and I think it's more likely than not it ends pretty quick. Chris.
Yeah, I agree with Ngannou as the pick. I'm not sure it's going to end quick. You mentioned the Derek Lewis fight. I think what we learned in that fight is that both guys are extreme counterpunchers, even though they are powerful and terrifying. And if you get two extreme counterpunchers in the same cage, that can happen. I think we have a similar situation here. It doesn't seem that way off the bat because Rosenstrike has a lot of finishes now, but if you go over them, they're all basically products, except for Overeem, where he knew he had to do something. But besides that, they're all products of guys, getting up over their skis, doing something stupid, and then getting caught with a counter shot. And to your point, Shaun, he has been caught a lot in his fight, not just the Overeem fight, but in that, what's the guy's name whose shorts never stay up? Who's cut now?
Albini.
Albini. In that Albini fight, he took one of the cleanest right hands I've ever seen for a guy, and that wouldn't move him. Like, he really took a big shot in that Albini fight, and wasn't going to pay for it. I don't think he can rely on his chin against Ngannou. I mean, we saw Curtis Blades with a nice chin against pretty much everyone he fights, and then all of a sudden Ngannou has him falling all over the cage with a couple of shots. So I think the power is just different. I don't think he's going to be able to take it. I think that the danger here is that I think Ngannou gets this done, but I think it could be like a low volume round 2 or round 3 stoppage. And if that's the case, I mean, that could really hurt you. So obviously you have to roster Ngannou. I'm going to be a little bit lighter because I feel like this could turn into a staring match for a significant portion of it. But yeah, give me Ngannou by knockout.
Joe.
Okay, so I've been up since 6 a.m. I was working on, actually I should say I went to bed at 6 a.m. I was working on CSGO lineups, so I'm not going to go off on a massive tirade here like I normally would. I've been surviving on caffeine and White Castle. What I'm going to say here is I don't at all understand the love for Rosenstruck here. He is way out of his depths here. I mean, is he a good prospect? Yes. Was that an impressive busting of a lip on Alistair Overeem? Yes. How does that get him a title shot? I mean, he was losing that fight. He was seconds away from losing that fight. Why isn't he fighting a guy like a Cyril Gagne? That would have been a great fight.
That is a great fight.
It's like, that would have been the fight I wanted to see.
I think you'll see it after this.
Yeah.
You might, yeah.
He's totally inept on the ground. If Francis is smart, he is a far better wrestler than Rosenstruck. He will not even bother trading with him standing. Take him down, beat the living crap out of him, and finish the fight. I do not think the narrative is completely different on this fight than it was versus Derek Lewis. There was a lot going on behind the scenes. Ngannou wasn't training. He went to France. He had just lost to Stipe after hitting him with his best shots. This is not that type of fight. I would be shocked if Ngannou didn't come out here and be very aggressive, take Rosenstruck down, beat the living crap out of him, and call it a day. Plan B for Rosenstruck. He goes back. He fights Cyril Gagne. Give me Ngannou here. I like Ngannou. There is some risk because he might actually finish Rosenstruck too early, in which case, at his price point, he might not get to the 12 or 13x you're going to need to win a GPP. So that's a possibility. But yeah, you got it, Vince. So give me Ngannou all day, every day, and I would be happy to apologize to the couple people out there who picked Rosenstruck if Rosenstruck somehow pulls it off here. But give me Ngannou all day, every day, and twice on Sunday.
I'm sorry. I gotta say, I know we're gonna, but I just gotta say, when have we ever seen Ngannou be aggressive?
Aggressive. I think meant wrestle. I was gonna say when he Kimura Anthony. What's his nuts?
Yeah, but
Hamilton's arm.
No, I got that. But when is he aggressive? I've never seen him be aggressive.
But I think Rosenstruck's gonna be.
Okay.
I'm saying he should be aggressive here. That should be
okay.
We'll see what happens.
Fair enough.
So, I mean, it's game plan dependent, like everything else in MMA. All right,
Yep.
co-main event time. Henry Cejudo 8,800 taking on Dominic Cruz 7,400. The line of this fight: Cejudo the favorite -215, Cruz +195, getting the title shot after 3 years off. But it's worth noting he's the bantamweight GOAT, period, stop, end of sentence. And I will go further to say, even if Cejudo beats him here, that does not make him the GOAT at bantamweight. Cejudo is interesting to me. I think Cejudo's picking on Cruz because he thinks it's an easy win. That's why he was trying to fight Jose Aldo. Like, Cruz shouldn't be having this fight, and I would cut Cejudo some slack if he was going to fight Piotr Jan or Aljamain Sterling. I know he's hurt, but he was going to fight one of those guys before all this happened. Cejudo's trying to cherry pick, trying to build this legacy here, and I think this is a bad matchup against Dominic Cruz. The problem is, I'm picking Dominic Cruz, obviously. I 100% realize there's a possibility that Dominic Cruz is shot. He's probably held together by string cheese, silly cheese, and string cheese, silly glue, silly string, Elmer's glue, whatever. Random household cleaners and products are holding this guy's knees, shoulders together. Like, could be a problem. Overall, though, I think the range Cejudo that Cruz keeps will be an issue for Cejudo. Cejudo's not unbeatable. He's lost to Mighty Mouse in 10 seconds. Questionably lost the second one to him as well. Beaten by Joe Benavidez. Like, he's not unbeatable. He's done a good job with the shtick persona. I think building up how good he is. Not that he's not great, but he's not unbeatable. You know, when you do that in MMA, you get this persona behind you, similar to Tony and Conor. You get that persona. It bumps up what people think of you. Obviously, great fighter. Don't let that, what I just said, go too far the other direction. Just kind of temper how good you think someone is. I think it's a bad matchup, but if Cruz is shot, Cejudo could just roll right through him. I think it's stackable in cash, but give me Dominic Cruz to pull off, I think, a pretty big upset here. And if you're not convinced he's the bantamweight GOAT, he damn well will be after he pulls this off. We're on Joe for this one. No, Chris.
No, me.
Joe. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Yeah.
Whatever's good.
Yeah. So I heard a rumor that Cruz did his training at the UCal Irvine Science Department because he needed to be near a cadaver in case he needed any spare body parts. With me, look, Dominic Cruz, like to your point, you know, gorilla tape and cadaver parts. Let me give you some stats here. First of all, he is a natural bantamweight. Natural meaning that he's fought at bantamweight his entire career. He's going to have a height and size advantage over our good friend Henry Cejudo. He is probably, and I'm guessing here, gonna be 150 at fight time when he hydrates up for making his cut to bantamweight. I'd be surprised if he doesn't look massive next to Henry Cejudo. He's got superior movement. He's got superior leg work. He's got 86% takedown defense. He's never been out wrestled in a fight in his entire life. Look, obviously there's concern for the layoff. Would it surprise everybody if I told you that they're only 2 years apart in age, that their birthday is 1 month apart? Cruz is, I believe, in February, and Cejudo is in March. 33 for Cejudo, 35 for Cruz. People thought he was older. I believe those are the right numbers. So to me, you know, if this was vintage, you know, Dominic Cruz, he'd beat him every day. I still think he's got enough left in the tank. And if you look at his fight, coming off a big layoff against a prime time Dillashaw, yes, that was a split decision. But, you know, and when Cruz wins, he scores points on DraftKings. Like, you know, people throw strikes at him and he throws strikes back. And he has a surprisingly good scoring history on DraftKings on fights that he won. I like Dominic Cruz here as well for the upset. I don't want a lot of Cejudo. You know, I don't see him running through Dominic Cruz. And if he doesn't run through Dominic Cruz and he can't take him down, he's not a prolific striker. So even if he wins a decision, I don't see his floor as being that high at his price point. So I don't want a lot of Cejudo, but I do love Cruz at this price point. So I'm with Shaun on the upset.
Chris.
So these guys have said this about me several times on this show, and I finally get to say it back. I think you guys are nuts. I don't get this at all. For the first thing that I would say is you got a guy with we know the layoffs 4 years, but he's also has a history of leg injuries as a movement fighter. against the guy who's very quick and very powerful in Henry Cejudo. Now, when you look at, especially, I mean, it happened before this. It happened a little bit in the Dillashaw fight too. But if you look at the Garbrandt fight, it almost looked like somebody doing a Dominic Cruz impression, because he would do his little movements, he would get inside, and then as he was backing out, he would get cracked every time. When he's trying to exit out of the pocket, he keeps his head up, he doesn't really cover up, and he just gets hit. And Henry Cejudo is very fast, as I said. I think he's going to make him pay very big time for making those movements. And look, we don't know how Dominic Cruz is going to look here, but the smart money has to be on a little bit worse than we saw 4 years ago, and that wasn't prime Dominic Cruz either. So then you have to ask yourself, well, how far from that point has he fallen? And I think we have to say that Cejudo is basically at the height of his powers here. I mean, he's certainly at the height of his success, if you want to use the word momentum. But I think at the height of his skills as well. I just don't see it here. I agree that look, I think Cejudo is something of a banner cash play. I will be using him a lot there. I think too he can maybe wear on Dominic Cruz and get a late stoppage. But the one thing that does have me a little hesitant here from a DFS perspective is, what if it takes Cejudo a round or two to adjust to the weird movements of Dominic Cruz, in the same way it took him a round or two to adjust to someone like Marlon Moraes for different reasons, but it was an adjustment nonetheless. And that's the only thing keeping me from giving a full-throated stamp of approval on Cejudo here. But I think he has this fight everywhere. I'm prepared to be amazed. So let's see it happen. But for right now, Cejudo is the big winner.
All right, guys. Main event time. Tony Ferguson, 8,700. Justin Gaethje, 7,500. Ferguson, the favorite, minus 195. We are guaranteed just mayhem. Ferguson can get cracked, does get hit. Justin Gaethje's game plan is also to get hit, to get cracked. We know that about Gaethje. People tend to forget it about Ferguson. Lando Venata hurt him. And what's interesting is Ferguson's strength of schedule at lightweight, I think I posted this on Twitter, not as crazy as I thought it was digging into it. Obviously, great fighter, clearly. But Cerrone, obviously could win. But look, Donald Cerrone has his issues in big fights. Showtime Pettis, Kevin Lee, RDA, I think is his best win, and Edson Barbosa behind that. Like, there's guys in the top 15 in lightweight who are missing from the resume who I thought would be there. Now, it's not Tony's fault. Just in my mind of who Tony Ferguson had beaten, the names weren't quite there for me, for whatever that's worth. They're also not there on the resume of Justin Gaethje. I get that, but I didn't think they were like I did on Ferguson. Back to the fight breakdown. It's going to be chaotic. I think this is just going to be fun. Both guys want to get hit. Gaethje could win this early, hurt Ferguson. Ferguson, that cardio pressure just should wear on him. The leg kicks of Gaethje, that could very well slow down Tony Ferguson in that cardio. Tons of kicks. I love the leg kicks. I love the pressure. I know Ferguson can be hurt. I don't like that Tony Ferguson's cut weight twice in a month, for God's sake. Why would you do that? I know he's crazy. It's just stupid. I'm leaning towards Justin Gaethje. It is a small lean. I'm all in on this fight. Stack it up in cash and just get ready for mayhem. Chris.
Yeah, well, I agree with fun and mayhem. I've seen a lot more love, I think, swing towards Justin Gaethje in the past, days, weeks. I think that's because, look, people realize, put two and two together, like, okay, Tony Ferguson gets hurt in fights, but the interesting thing is he doesn't really get hit a lot in fights. When he does get hit, he gets hit hard because he's coming off a spin or he's doing something crazy or, whatever. But he's got pretty good defense in general. I just think that Ferguson is going to have a lot of advantages in the pocket here. I think that one of the things that really, I keep coming back to as something that's going to happen over and over again in this fight, what does Gaethje do when he covers up in the pocket, right? He shells up like this. What does Tony Ferguson love to do? Grab that arm, come around the side with that elbow. I could see that happening a lot in this fight. I could see Gaethje getting rocked like that. Not just that, but I mean, Tony Ferguson has things like that great front kick up the middle, which he also combos off of. I just think he's too creative here. He's too dangerous inside the short space that Justin Gaethje wants to fight in. Can Justin Gaethje finish him? Well, yeah, of course. But it's worth noting that the two finishes he's gotten that weren't Donald Cerrone were based on him backing up both James Vick and then Edson Barbosa and hitting them with a one-shot kill. I don't think he's going to be able to back up Tony Ferguson. I think Tony Ferguson is going to lead this fight as he leads every other fight. And that's going to be really interesting to see, too, because we don't really see Justin Gaethje fight off the back foot all that often. So that's going to be interesting in its own right. It's going to be fun. I'm going to enjoy every second of it. Whether I win or lose, I'm going to have a good time. But I just see too many advantages for Ferguson here, so he's my pick by, let's say, a third-round finish.
Joe, bring us home.
Wow, so I agree that lucidity is slipping away from me. I'm so tired. But did Shaun say mayhem when he meant mayhem? Because I'm wondering what we're getting in June. Let's see. So I have really torn here because I kind of went from the beginning of the week really liking Justin Gaethje's chances to towards the end of the week, like kind of moving over to the Tony side. And really what it comes down to here is I don't think this is an overly complex fight to analyze, right? I see it as Justin early and Tony late. Now, one thing that I think that Justin has that some of the other fighters who have stung Tony Ferguson don't, and I'm talking about guys like Lando Venata and even
Anthony Pettis.
Yeah. Guys who have heard him, is that I think Gaethje hits harder and has a greater ability to finish. He will throw caution to the wind. I mean, here's a guy that lands over 8 significant strikes a minute and takes 9. So if he has a guy in trouble, he is not going to play safe. He is going to go after this guy, right? And he does have a D1 wrestling background, even though you very rarely see him use it. Tony is probably the better submission grappler. Okay, he is the better submission grappler. Generally is going to have better cardio. If this fight goes into the quote-unquote championship rounds, I would think the momentum would shift over. Look, we've seen Gaethje get hurt with leg kick. We've seen him fade against Poirier. So because I think there's a very realistic chance that Gaethje can hurt Tony and he will do what others have not and finish him. You got to have a lot of Justin Gaethje. His price point is such that the lineup builds that I'm getting with Justin Gaethje, I love. On the other hand, if you think Tony is going to win, I would not want to talk you off of that because we've seen, and again, now we all know that Tony is not a one-shot knockout kind of guy. He is a guy that wears you down. He throws lots and lots of punches at you, has cardio for days. He just wears you down. He doesn't have the Gaethje one-punch knockout power. So, look, I never go 100% when I'm mass entering because what happens if we have like a Jeremy DQ and you get totally effed? I always like to have a couple of percent off of every fight. So I am going to be probably about 95 to 97% all in on this fight. I will likely have more Gaethje simply because I think that, one is the lineup builds are easier and, there's some price point value there. But if I have to make a pick right now, I'm going to say Justin, but it's one of those fights where I think if it gets to the main event and I'm live in contest, I'm going to win regardless of who wins, right? Because I just think that I'm going to have enough exposure to either guy where if I'm live, I'm likely going to do okay. So Gaethje, I'll pick Gaethje.
So guys, this is the stacker's delight, right? Joe, I know you don't particularly like stacking, but
right. I can't find a flaw in cash.
Yeah.
Again, like Gaethje has averaged 58 to 60 points in losses, but we're not talking 5-round fights. Not all of his fights are 5 rounds that he lost. So it's conceivable he could score 60 to 80 points in a loss. So if that's the case, that's a really solid floor at his price point.
Yeah.
All right, hot takes time. Before we do that, make sure to go to RotoWire, go to rotowire.com/free for a 10-day free trial to all their premium content. No credit card required. Tajik Bey asking real quick, I'll answer the question. How many lineups are you playing, Joe, Chris, and Sniper? Or Kiss, I should say.
No, that's right. Yeah, I like it. We're staying with that.
I have, so I'm going to max the mini max, and then I have 20 other places.
Yeah, I'm maxing the 20. I'm maxing the mini max. I'm going 50 in the 8, the 5, the 5 and the 10. I'm going to max out the 20 that allow you to do 20. And I'm going to play some selective cash games, but mostly this is a GPP card for me.
Chris?
Yeah, I'm not quite as heavy as these maniacs, but I'm going to have about 30 lineups all in. Most of those are going to be in the 20.
Alrighty.
I have my hot take already since
I got mine, and I have it queued up, and I'm stealing because usually you do the betting one, and I'm going to do the betting one this time.
Oh,
I'm doing a betting one as well. But
sorry, guys. But it also applies to DFS. Charles Rosa, round 1, plus 1125.
Wow.
Find a submission.
Very specific. Now, does it have to be round 1 sub, or could it be round 1 anything?
Just round 1. If you want to get a little less spicier than that, just Rosa inside the distance was plus 580.
By the way, I have this fight to finish inside the distance at plus 120. Combined, these two guys have finished 70% of their fights by submission.
Yeah. Chris, that's just Rosa round 1, TKO or sub.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, TKO or sub, right? Got it.
Yeah.
So that's my hot take. Give me Rosa in round 1.
Okay, so my hot take is also a betting hot take. This is not going to come as a surprise to people who follow me on Twitter. I posted this bet up. I got a lot of good support. I got people that essentially told me in as nice a way as possible that I'm an effing idiot. My hot take is Ngannou by sub. It's not unprecedented. Rosenstruck is pathetic on the ground. I can certainly see that as the safest route for Ngannou to not trade. I am going to give some props to Rosenstruck for his power. I think Ngannou would be smart to lock him up, to take him down, which is relatively easy, and to finish him on the ground. He has won by sub before, so give me plus 750 for Ngannou by sub. I posted my bet on Twitter. I bet like $66.67 to win 500.
Like it. Chris?
Okay, I'm going to stay pure here and keep with the DFS. I mentioned that I think Waterson sitting down on her punches more, and Esparza keeps herself up in the air. So I am taking Michelle Waterson by stoppage by strikes.
Wow,
that's also pretty spicy. I like
it. Is a hot take, man. We got hot takes from chat.
The only Sean Taylor, Cruz scores 10 takedowns on Cejudo. Holy that's a lot.
That would be a lot
against an Olympic caliber wrestler, but okay, I like it.
Wait, can we ask him? Has he been hitting the White Claw early? I mean,
maybe.
That is wow.
Not non-Hardy by sub. Don't
see.
Hate
we
that
can't
one.
even. Oh, sorry.
Don't
come on, Non. Come on. You don't believe that.
I don't hate that. I really don't.
Really?
Come on.
Tyler Lee Hardy gets disqualified. I like that one.
I like that one.
You know what? I don't even know if that one's that hot at this point.
I think that's more likely than Hardy by sub. Hardy gets
maybe.
Cowboy by sub from Vince.
I could see that.
All right, guys. Thanks for all the hot takes. Thanks for joining us. Like, subscribe, follow us all on Twitter.
Hold on. I got to put one more up because I like this one. Donald Trump resigns from office if Dominic Cruz does not win. So depending on what side of the aisle you're on, you might like or hate that. I think Cejudo's going to win, so there you go.
This is clearly devolving. We are getting the hell out of here. Thanks, everybody, for showing up. Like, subscribe.
Hey, $2.5 million to win or more at DraftKings. Get yourself a piece of that.
Get on there.
That's right.
Good luck in your contest. Chat it up with all of us on Twitter during the fight. I love talking with you guys. Good luck in your contest. Make some money. See you. I don't know when the next time is. We got a couple of cards coming up. We got to figure it out, but we'll see you soon.
Yep. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Peace.